Today is day 9 of my scale doubling challenge, in which I play the scale every day, doubling it each time. I had to play the major scale 256 times today, and I have found that there's 3 big challenges so far with this. The first one is staying focused. It's tough to play for 10 minutes straight, playing the same scale over and over again, and actually stay focused. So what I did was I start the scale on a certain fret, and I play it 4 times, and then I move it up 1 fret and play it 4 times. That seems to help me stay a little bit focused, and also it actually helps me keep track of how many times I've played this thing, because counting 256 is not easy, so breaking it up into little chunks has helped with that. The second challenge is fatigue. So if I press too hard, if I get too tense in either of my hands, it's very easy to feel fatigued, so I really have to pay attention. This also helps with my focus, but I have to pay attention to staying nice and relaxed when I'm playing this. And for day 10, I'm going to have to play this 512 times. I'm really going to have to stay focused on being relaxed. Then the last one that I have not really experienced yet until today is actually kind of getting into a daze. I'm playing the same thing over and over again, even though I'm moving it around. It's still the same scale, and so it's almost a trance-like state that I get into, which I really have to be careful of because I'm trying to count. I'm trying to stay focused. I can't just let my mind go. Those are the challenges that I face, and it's only going to get worse as I go along. 2 people have been really encouraging me along the way with this, and I appreciate you. One person said this is a waste of digital space, so I appreciate the encouragement, and I will continue to do this as long as the encouragement continues. Now, obviously, I'm doing this because I'm hoping people will watch, and maybe they'll listen to the things that I'm talking about here and will benefit from it. And maybe you'll check out my website, Guitar with Nick. It's a pretty new website, but I've got a book that you can download there if you'd like to. People seem to like it. My local students get it, and I actually make them read it before they take lessons with me, and I get a lot of good feedback on it. So it's pretty cool. You can check it out. But I want to talk about teaching guitar and what my philosophy is and what I try to do with my local students as best I can. I'm not a perfect teacher, and I'm always trying to get better, but this is what I strive for. So the first thing is I try to help my students take things in small, tiny steps that are easy to digest. I think a lot of times guitar teachers get really excited about teaching stuff, and they forget that their students don't have years of experience behind them. At least most people who are taking lessons are beginners, so they don't have years of experience. What seems easy for a guitar teacher can be actually very difficult for someone who's never played or only has a limited amount of experience. So I try in my lessons to break things down into smaller steps and make them easy. So if I give you a whole song, we might only work on just learning the chords at first if you don't even know the chords, or we might work on just the strumming pattern without even worrying about the chords at all. That way you can break things down into smaller components, into little tiny steps that are easier to handle, and then you can have more success when you start putting things together. That goes along with the next point, is that making things that are complicated seem like they're easy. I did a music theory course years ago, and I will never do the music theory course the same way that I did the first time. I tried to do a kind of a comprehensive course. That's what everyone thinks that they want when they think about music theory, is let's do everything, let's learn all the things that there is to learn. And what I've come to find is that my experience in music school is exactly the same experience that everyone else has with music theory, and that is that it's really complicated, it's hard to understand, and it needs to be simplified far more than I realized. So now I have a student who I'm teaching online, and we're taking one concept at a time. We're just learning one concept, sometimes taking just that one concept for several lessons and really working it so that I know that he understands the concept and can work with it and understand it before we move on to anything else. What is really tempting as a guitar teacher to do is try to help you understand everything all at once, and as a result, you don't understand anything well enough for it to actually be useful. This applies to both music theory and learning songs or learning riffs or anything like that. So taking things that are complicated, breaking them into different components that all make sense by themselves, and then working those, it really helps you understand things, helps you learn better, and as a result, it's more fun. You actually make progress. You feel good about what you're doing, and that helps you be motivated to move on to the next step. Another thing that I'm really big on as a guitar teacher is an emphasis on really good practice techniques. I can teach you all the best stuff. I can break it down into little components. I can make everything feel really easy and simple. And yet, if you don't have good practice techniques, it's going to be harder to get to your goal than it should be. If your practice isn't good, if it's sloppy, if you're constantly making mistakes, if you don't really know how to organize your practice routine or even what to prioritize when you practice, it's going to necessarily take you longer to get to your ultimate goal than it should. So good practice routines, good practice techniques is what I'm really big on. In fact, I have one class that's offered every week that is just how to practice guitar. And the people who come to it really like it. They get a lot out of it. And it's actually one of my favorite classes to teach because I can help people understand how to practice. They can apply that to anything that they are working on, and then I get to see how much progress they make because they actually understand how to practice. And I've pulled from a lot of different resources over the years. There's a lot of different books that I've read, and I've kind of developed my own techniques and ways of practicing that my students have told me are very helpful. And one of the things that I'm considering doing on my YouTube channel is actually making videos where you practice along with me. So we take one concept, we practice it together, I explain what we're doing and why we're doing it, and it's almost like a workout video for guitars. I don't know if that sounds interesting to anyone, but leave me a comment. Let me know if that sounds like it'd be something that you'd be interested in doing. Because if people are interested in it, then I definitely want to do it. The last thing that I would emphasize in my teaching is that there's really no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts to learning guitar. Okay, there are things that you can do that make it easier, but there's no hacks. There's no people who get really good at guitar get there because they put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, and they just played a lot. It's the biggest predictor of success. When I look at my students and I see this one's practicing over this one doesn't, or this one is really into guitar and they just love it, and this other one, practices maybe 2 days a week, I know which one is going to make progress. That's the biggest predictor of success for me as a teacher. There's no shortcuts, but you can do certain things to make your learning easier or harder. I'll give you one of them right now, and that is if you practice the same thing and you're making the same mistake over and over and over again, the thing that you're practicing is the thing that you're learning. So when you make a mistake and you continue to make that mistake, you're actually just learning that mistake. In this case, what you need to do is figure out what the mistake is. Identify specifically what the mistake is. So if you're changing from one chord to another and one finger lands on the wrong string every time, identify what finger that is that's landing wrong. Identify where it needs to go, and then slow things down. And when I say slow things down, I mean slow things way down to the point where you can really focus on where your fingers are going, how they're moving, and getting them to land in the exact right spot. And then you need to repeat that over and over and over again. Some people are going to have to repeat something 100 times to get it right, to get to muscle memory. Other people are going to have to repeat it 1,000 times to get to muscle memory. That's the hardest thing as a teacher and a student, is to know how much effort do I really need to put into this in order to learn it right. The answer to that really is you need to do this enough that it feels natural, that you don't even have to think about it anymore. If you're thinking about what you're doing, then you just need to put more time, put more repetition into it. And I know that's not very exciting, it's not very motivating, but it's the cold hard truth, and I'm not really into lying to people about how much effort it's going to take to learn guitar. I see websites and YouTube videos and things like that, and I made a short about this recently, that you can learn the fretboard in 3 minutes, or learning guitar is easy. I don't tell people that learning guitar is easy anymore. I do my absolute best to make things easier and to make them simple and to make it fun. But the truth is, there are some things about learning guitar that it doesn't matter how much you simplify it. Some people are just going to find it difficult. So I say this just to let you know I'm not going to make big promises about what I can do for you. And if you're looking for a magic bullet, I'm not the right person for you. But if you are interested, check out my website, guitarwithnick.com. I've got a free book that you can download there. So hopefully I'll see you there.